Okay. Welcome, 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 everybody, to Black Gold. I'm so glad that you all are here. So this is June 2022, and we are at the 101st year after the massacre. We started this series last June, so it's been a year that we've been doing it. I'm very excited to be here with these two wonderful people. I probably should tell you who I am because a lot of you may not know. My name is Tara, and I am the Member Success Coordinator here at 36 Degrees North at our Camp 2 location. I don't want to take for granted that everybody who's here knows what 36 Degrees North is, because some of you may be new to 36 Degrees North, so I'll just tell you a little bit about it. 36 Degrees North is Tulsa's base camp for entrepreneurs. Our entire mission is to help entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs themselves thrive in our city. We do this by providing inspiring workspace, a tight-knit community, and resources to get entrepreneurs to the next step in their journey. Our goal with this series is to uplift the stories of Tulsa entrepreneurs past and present. And this series is proudly brought to you by Greenwood Cultural Center and 36 Degrees North. And I would like to acknowledge Michelle Burdex from Greenwood Cultural Center. If we could give her a hand. She's the program coordinator and tour guide there. And I want to tell you just a little bit about Greenwood Cultural Center. The center serves as a marker for the Tulsa community, chronicling where we have been, where we are, and where we are going through historical offerings, events, and youth programming. Its mission is promoting, preserving, and celebrating African American culture and heritage. And you can learn more about the Greenwood Cultural Center at greenwoodculturalcenter.org. So, if you have been following the series, you know that Black Gold is a series that we started to stand in solidarity with the Black community upon the anniversary of the massacre. It was important to me as a Tulsan and as an Oklahoman who grew up hearing the stories of Black Wall Street, and it was an honor for me to be able to tell these stories, to talk about the pioneers of Black Wall Street, as well as the current day entrepreneurs, such as Mikeal Vaughn, who is here with us today. Yes, let's clap it up for Mikeal. So if you were on social media at all, I kept saying, we're gonna have a special guest, we're gonna have a special guest. And our special guest tonight is none other than Mrs. Linda Vaughn. This is Mikhail Vaughn's mother, so let's give her a hand. In honor of Mother's Day, I wanted to kind of put a special twist on it and just get your point of view as a mom to see if there was anything as a child that you saw like, oh yeah, I knew he would do that, or just to kind of give us some insight, right? Michael's laughing. So I'm going to recap really quick. Last quarter, our guest was Trey Thaxton, and of 19 and 21 in Greenwood Ave. Let me tell you a little bit about why Black Gold. We laid the groundwork for the rest of the series and touched on the backstory of how the series came to be. At 36 Degrees North, we want to make our space an inclusive, all of our spaces an inclusive one. And our goal is to make sure that 36 looks like Tulsa or better as far as diversity is concerned. We recognize that when talking about entrepreneurship, that Black Wall Street is critical when talking about that, if not pivotal. So we wanted to get the right people in the conversation with us, which is why we partnered with Greenwood Cultural Center. We also saw that there were a lot of initiatives. Y'all, this is just, you know how the fine print back in the day, people would be like, let me get this fine print out the way, then we're going to get into this conversation. I haven't forgot about you. Okay. We also saw that there were a lot of initiatives being brought here because of the centennial, and we're very grateful for those, and we saw this as an opportunity to highlight what and who has been here in the city and those who are making changes here in the city. So we're highlighting some of the amazing stories of those people who built Greenwood and tying their stories to stories of some of Tulsa's best and brightest modern day entrepreneurs. So now that we got that out the way, I'm glad you all are here. And I want to welcome those who are joining us virtually also. To that end, we're going to go ahead and get to our special guest. Mr. Mikeal Vaughn is the founder and executive director of Urban Coders Guild, a Tulsa-based nonprofit organization that exists to provide increased access to computer science education, opportunities, and resources to historically underserved, underrepresented, and otherwise under-resourced communities. A native of North Tulsa and a graduate of the Booker T. Washington High School in Tulsa. Okay, I'm like, it got to be some hornets in here. Mikeal returned to Tulsa with a vision to share his experiences with students who look like him and come from communities like his own, with the intention of building a Black and brown tech talent pipeline prepared to thrive in Tulsa's emerging tech industries. So if we could give Mikeal a great big hand and his mother. Let's see. Okay. I have a remote somewhere, guys. Do you see it over there? Thank you, sir. We got to make sure we can see this handsome picture. Y'all look at this picture. Ooh. Okay. So I wanted to also just talk about, there's Ms. Vaughn. There's both of your pictures together. I love this picture. So Mikeal, I just gave your bio, but I want you to tell us your story in your words. I saw here that you are a native here of North Tulsa and a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School. But sometimes when I first started Black Gold, I would ask them, are you gonna come? And they would say, no, I'm not an entrepreneur. And I was just like, really? Well, maybe you are and you just don't know yet, right? And so whenever you and we had an opportunity to talk about you being that little boy in North Tulsa, and how entrepreneurship, you didn't necessarily consider yourself an entrepreneur either. So let's just walk your story down for people who are watching who may think, well, I'm not really an entrepreneur. Let's tell us how we got to here today.
Absolutely. Hold on, my mic isn't on. Hello? Can y'all hear me? Awesome. So my name is Mikeal Vaughn. Thank you for having me. Quick story, I'm born and raised in North Tulsa. I am a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, class of 99. I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur. I really always saw myself as kind of a STEM nerd kid. I built model rockets and launched them in the park. I played in a dirty creek. I invented all kinds of things as a kid, and so I didn't necessarily, think about entrepreneurship. I saw myself more as a scientist, kind of, inventor, kind of. I ended up spending 10 years living in Tokyo, Japan, doing IT, so I really am a tech guy, a tech person. There was a moment, though, in my last year there when I working crazy hours, like most folks do in Japan, and I asked myself, what was the meaning of it all? If you work 100 hours, like, what is this? So why am I doing this every day, week in and week out? And I didn't have a really good reason. I didn't have a legacy to leave behind. And so that very day, actually it was 2 o'clock in the morning. So at that very moment, I realized that I needed to come home. And so the next day I quit my job and moved back to Tulsa to start this thing.
That's so awesome. So you said you lived in Japan for 10 years?
For almost 10 years.
For almost 10 years. You speak Japanese, right?
I do speak Japanese.
I remember you speak Japanese. Let's see. Can you say hello? My name is Mikeal in Japanese.
Someone else said it. Konnichiwa, Mikhail Vaughan to moshimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
Yes, yes.
I haven't done it in a long time.
You did great. It sounded official to me. So you talked about being a kid in North Tulsa and then how you didn't have a legacy piece. When you say legacy, I have to think about your mom, right? So, Mrs. Vaughn, I thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm so excited to hear Mikeal's story and your story. And he said that he considered himself a scientist as a kid. Tell us what you remember, like him growing up, and if you saw him today doing what he's doing. Y'all both smiling. I'm loving it.
I always saw Mikeal as a visionary because it was early on. He always wanted to go to NASA, and we couldn't afford that.
Keep your mic up.
He wanted to be a golfer, and I think because he wasn't very, he didn't like a confrontation that, hitting back and forth.
Make sure you speak right into the mic.
Hitting back and forth. So therefore, but we couldn't afford that. But what he did was he just would just think of things that he wanted to do. I can recall a time, and it was before they had timers on the lights. And he said, you could put timers on a light, and then therefore you wouldn't have to sit out, so long. And I was thinking, that's a really good idea. And he was always thinking of things, and he even would write DC, the patent company. And he would go through all the process, but I think when it came to the dollars, it was like, okay, we live on 52nd Street and we have 3 other children to feed, so it was kind of a disadvantage. I just feel so blessed to have the opportunity that God it thought that I would have the opportunity to raise him. But if he was born in a really ritzy family, he probably, I don't know what he could have done, if he could have done any more. I don't know. But I don't think we hindered him because I let him always be creative. He could think and do I never put any limits on him.
I love that. I feel that. Yeah, let's clap for that. Thank you, Kim. That's amazing, because a lot of times parents try to make their kids be who they want them to be, and they actually come already programmed. There's always already something for them to do. So it's important to follow the clues and say, okay, this looks like he might want to build this rocket. So let's see if I need to get him, some type of a set. But let's talk to parents, because I'm grateful that my mom actually allowed my sisters and I to be creative too. Now, some stuff she did mandate. Like, she was like, you're going to speak a foreign language and play a musical instrument. Outside of that, you can do what you want to do. Tell me how, you supported Mikeal in doing those things. I mean, you just told us about that, just making sure that, because this was a time in the 90s, not right? 80s. 80s.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to paint the landscape for people who are watching. Were there camps or anything? There wasn't a camp for coding, or was there science camps?
So there were some science camps, and my mom always let me go to those, but there wasn't necessarily a coding camp. I do remember that we got our first family computer, and that was 92 maybe. It was a big hulky computer. We had to go and buy the America Online CDs from the store, and then I had to keep coming up with new email addresses so I could go back and get another CD because it wasn't cheap. And then I also remember having to learn how to disable call waiting because the internet, it was landline, and so if someone called, it would disrupt your internet. So I learned how to turn off call waiting so I could use the internet. And that really is where I started to learn tech, learning how to make a website, and just the most basic website. Also, some of y'all look like y'all might be old enough to know MySpace. So trying to get my MySpace page to work and play my music and have the sparklies come down from the top of the screen. But that's really where I started my life in tech.
Somebody else had some sparklies coming down on their page, didn't they? Oh, okay. That's awesome. That's amazing. I want to talk a bit about, since we have both of you here, your family, and you have your sisters here as well. I wanted to talk just about Black Wall Street and the impact that it had on families, right? So I just put here some facts about Black Wall Street in the way of economics, because I don't want to take for granted that everybody knows what we're talking about here, right? So I just want to paint a picture to you. Black Wall Street, it says that Greenwood residents collectively funneled their cash into local black businesses. Now, this was, of course, a time when there was segregation and black people couldn't go outside of the community, right, to spend their money. So then, because of that, a dollar circulated 36 to 100 times and remained in the Greenwood community almost a year before leaving. Greenwood was considered by many to be the wealthiest black enclave in the nation. And this modern, majestic, sophisticated, and unapologetically black community boasted of banks, hotels, cafes, clothiers, movie theaters, and contemporary homes, not to mention luxuries such as indoor plumbing, which was unheard of back then, and only for the wealthy, and a remarkable school system that superiorly educated black children. And get this, there were 6 families in Black Wall Street alone in Greenwood who owned airplanes at a time when the whole state of Oklahoma only had 2 airports. There were 6 families here in the city who owned their own airplanes. So I just wanted to paint a better picture of what what we're talking about here, again, many of you may know, but I don't want to take for granted that you do. So this is just a picture of some women in that time, during that time, as well as some customers standing outside a Berry service station in Tulsa, and a black and white photograph, portrait of an unidentified man dressed in a three-piece suit. So these are wealthy people, y'all, at a time whenever black people weren't doing all of that, right? They came, O.W. Gurley came from Arkansas? Mississippi, which is where, that's where Greenwood got its name. It's from Greenwood, Mississippi. He came here and he bought land and he created a space where black people could come and do their own thing. So, having said that, I believe, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, that everybody is programmed with a solution, right? I believe that when we're created, we're programmed with a solution for the earth. So I want to get into you and how you got, first of all, how you got to Japan, and then what made you want to come back here, and why coding?
Okay. So I went to Japan completely on a whim, which is kind of crazy because I had gotten my undergraduate degrees in international business and Spanish. And so that was in June, August of that year. I went to Japan and decided that I was going to live there pretty much forever. Without even knowing the language. I didn't even have a job. I just decided that I was going to live there. And my mother, she was like, okay, which is, it's a little bit crazy, but my mom has always supported my crazy ideas. The second part of the question was about,
so I asked how you got to Japan, and then how you came back. Well, you told us why you came back, because you thought about your legacy piece.
Yeah.
So how did you then, whenever you decided, I don't have a legacy piece, I want to go back to Tulsa, how did you decide, oh, I'm going to teach kids how to code? Where did that come in?
Got you. So one of the things I like to say is that when I, worked in my office in Japan, I was one of the very few, actually the only person who looked like me in my office. And maybe in the whole building, but certainly in my office. I know that a lot of us have that same experience working in tech. There are occasions when there's only one black person, there's only one woman, which is a crazy experience on either side. I knew that there would be a day when I would walk away. I like to make a joke that there's a day when I'm gonna wake up and watch Gunsmoke and Murder, She Wrote, and what else came after that? In the Heat of the Night. But that means that I would have to help create a world where our young people are able to work the jobs of the future and thrive in the jobs of the future.
So that makes me think, back in the day, if I think about dreams, I wanted to be Whitney Houston, right? Because she had the most beautiful voice ever. And there was a song that probably a lot of you know. Okay, Aaron is laughing because he calls me Tara Houston. Is that what you call me? Something like that. Or Anita Fake or something crazy. But one of her songs, The Greatest Love of All, starts off with the line, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Right? Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Aaron, did you want to sing it? I'm just
I'm laughing because I think of the scene from Coming to America. Randy Watson singing that song.
That's hilarious. So, talk about how Urban Coders Guild came to be. Like, why the name? What year was this? What were you? I know that was a legacy piece that you were thinking of. How then did you get into, okay, I'm going to create a nonprofit, and I'm going to name it this, and this is who I'm going to target?
So again, thinking about being the only person who looks like me in a tech company, knowing that we needed to have young talent in tech. When I thought about the name, I thought of being able to create a mentorship system. And so that made me think about an old world guild. And so you started as an apprentice at the bottom. You learn some skills. You become a journeyman. You learn some more skills. Many, many years later, you become a master. And at that point, you're taking on your own apprentice. your own journeyman and you're teaching them. And so that is just my approach, or how I think that we need to approach tech and talent development.
So that's how the name came about. What year was Urban Coder Skill founded?
So that was in 2017. One of the things that I wanted to say, why coding? Coding it's a great entry point, but it doesn't necessarily have to be just the entry point. It opens the doors, and the same way that learning a language opens doors, it opens doors to do a great many other things. And so that was super important. A big part of the story, and I always wanted to make sure I just insert this part, is that the first year that I was back, I was also subbing at McLean High School. And kids being kids are like, hey, this can't be how you make money. And so I told them, I actually am still finishing up some mobile app ideas. And so they asked me, Mikeal, can you teach us how to make mobile apps? And that's why we started with teaching them how to make mobile apps.
I didn't know that. Tell us a little bit about the program.
So this is the part I love. It's an after-school program. We actually meet 4 nights a week. We teach kids 4 different things. One is web development, another being app development. So they build iPhone apps. They also build Android apps for you folks in the room who have an Android phone. So we teach them those 3, and then we also teach them Unity game development. And so they're building their own games. I know some folks do Roblox or Fortnite. We teach them the fundamentals of that. And then some of you also have seen the Oculus eyes, like headsets. So we teach them the basics of how to create their own virtual augmented reality environments.
I love that. What ages do you teach? What ages of kids do you teach?
Great question. We actually teach middle school and high school kids. These kids come to us with no experience, so this really is open to everyone. It's free for everyone. Again, we're thinking about equitable access, so it's free. The only thing that we really ask for them is a commitment. They spend over 120 hours with us over the course of 30 weeks, learning code and learning through project-based learning, which is super important.
It is important. So I did some research on the benefits of coding for children, and found out that coding nurtures creativity. It makes math more fun and engaging. It develops problem-solving skills. It enables computational thinking, and it promotes learning by doing. I'm sure that there are other benefits as well. But I love that. We talked about economics a little bit when we talked about money on Black Wall Street. Let's talk about why coding is important for their future. I truly believe that you cannot be what you don't see. So the fact that you were in that class and they like, surely this ain't the way you make money. And you're like, actually, this is what I do. Some people were exposed to something that they may have never known had you not been in that class. So let's talk about how to use coding as a way to improve their economic status, not just for them, but for their family.
Got you. So in terms of improving our students, I'm going to call them outcomes.
Okay.
Of course, coding is a language of its own. So we're teaching them a certain style of learning a language. We're also, again, helping them with their critical thinking skills, their logic skills. Coding has been shown to help students with their math scores, with their math academic achievement. Same thing with the English language arts. So there's a lot of great benefits to learning the code. For me, even knowing that we're running a coding program, I also understand that very few of our kids are actually going to be a coder in real life. I learned to code, and it's not something that I want to do in real life, but what they're learning is those critical thinking skills, logic. They're learning patience. They're learning grit. They're learning how to do problem solving, how to read 1,000 lines of code and see that one thing that's missing.
I love that, because I always think about if you're teaching a kid coding, that's what they're going to do. But it's a means to an end. It's not like, oh, I'm teaching you this so you can do this. It's about the skills that you actually acquire in the process.
Absolutely. Again, I know that they're not all going to be coders. Again, it's not something that I actually want to do again in my career. I spent way too many years, and I had better eyesight at that point. But at the end of the day, it's about creating pathways for our young people. Our young people need pathways. It's unfair to ask a 17 or 18-year-old what they want to do with their lives and then also ask them to make a multiple tens of thousands, hundreds of $1,000 investments in these pathways. College or 4-year college is definitely one of the pathways we want to promote. Two-year vocational community college pathways. Some of them might be more suited for a boot camp situation. We have a couple of those here in Tulsa. Some of them might be entrepreneurial and want to use their coding skills, their bright ideas to pursue something in entrepreneurship.
So I want to talk about when you grew up. Whenever you grew up, did you know the story of Black Wall Street? Had you heard about? Because there are some people who are from Tulsa who hadn't heard about it. Did y'all know about Greenwood and the Black Wall Street?
I grew up in Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Okay.
But my mother had a really good friend that actually was a photographer, and he had an office on Greenwood. But of course, I was born in '48, so it was a lot later then. But he had pictures. He always and I wondered what happened to him. But he had a lot of pictures and everything. So I knew up knowing the story, but I never knew the extent of it. Yeah.
Now, I've heard that there was a teacher, I don't know if he's still there at Booker T, who used to teach about it. Is that true? Do you remember learning anything at Booker T? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I don't remember learning anything specific about the Tulsa Race Massacre. Not really. Okay. But we did have an Oklahoma history book, and I think there might have been a paragraph. There might have been a page, but I'm really thinking it was more of a paragraph, and it was so this thing happened, and then it was the next paragraph.
I just asked that because had my parents not told us about it, I grew up in Bartlesville, so we didn't get taught in school about it, right? And I just wondered if when you were growing up or, if you were taught about it or if you were taught about it in school. I have on the screen behind you just a couple of pictures of an event that you had. Take a Child to Tech Day, which was not that long ago, a few weeks ago. Tell us about that.
The week before. And so I think I want to start with the picture on the right. Okay. We really want our students to have, beyond the coding education, I want them to have some experiences that they wouldn't normally otherwise have. I want them to be able to see some of these things in the real world. So what we ended up doing was taking about 20 kids over to OSU Stillwater. They have a great computer science program. We let them talk to some of the students, some of the black and brown students, some of the female students they have there. Then we just walked the campus. But then at this point, we actually ended up in a virtual reality, augmented reality class. And so that green screen is part of that. The students there were actually making artificial, augmented reality, virtual reality environments. And so on the other side, there is a kid or some person who has a headset. All of the students had a chance to use the headset and see really what they could be making or what they would be making.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. To the left, that's the flyer for Take a Child to Tech Day. I honestly co-opted a different event. That event was Take a Child to Work Day. A lot of us went and did that. I went with my mom to Amico back in the day and had a whole tour. And then I remember also having some pretty good food. we we borrowed that, and we had another 20 or so students that we took to different tech companies around Tulsa. They really got to spend the morning sitting with someone who might have been a software engineer or project manager. It's various different roles. I wanted them to see what that is in the same way that, you know, I got to see what my mom did. I wanted them to see what someone working in tech as a tech professional would do on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome. So you worked at Amoco. That's an oil company, yeah? Okay, cool. What'd you do for them?
I'm trying to think. I worked in production.
Okay.
So, and I worked in data entry. So what I did was I can remember putting in data from the oil wells or, you know, different
Nice.
stuff like that.
That's cool. My mom worked for Phillips for 31 years, Phillips 66 in Bartlesville. I think not everybody, but a lot of people probably did. But so I love that you want the kids to see things that they maybe wouldn't see any other time. That's so important. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Sometimes I do. I think about an entrepreneur, and actually one of the things I had an app idea, and I was gonna make $1 billion from this app idea. So part of the story is that I had this app idea, and my investors or my potential investors wanted to see a prototype. I did not have a prototype. I didn't have money to build a prototype, and so I started teaching my money. Those financial resources get the best of creatives, but I didn't have money, and so I started teaching myself how to code, how to build mobile apps.
Really?
I did, and so when I think of an entrepreneur, I think of more in that vein, making $1 million, billion, $1 trillion. As a nonprofit, as a leader of a nonprofit, I don't see that kind of money, not for real. But I do think of myself as an entrepreneur in that, one, I am working crazy hours like an entrepreneur. It's something that, you know, this is my passion. So it keeps me up well into the night. It wakes me up well into the morning. My dreams are about how to make this work. And I think in those ways that I'm an entrepreneur, it's all in with your passion, all in with your energy.
Yes, I love that. So you're like hidden figures, but you're in like out and open, kind of. You know, that was a bad like.
You said like hidden.
Yeah.
They were actual geniuses.
Mikeal, you are a genius too. You are. Anybody dreaming about coding? Listen, my dreams ain't never about coding at all, ever. Let's see. So what do you want us to know about the program? What does the program need? Where do you see Urban Coders Guild in 5 years? What impact are you looking to make in the city?
These are very, very pertinent questions. Tulsa really is in the process of building a tech city, positioning itself as a tech hub. And as a product of North Tulsa, as a product of Tulsa Public Schools, I think about what that future city would look like without our kids, and specifically without the kids who look like me, who come from North Tulsa or East Tulsa or, you know, any of our disadvantaged communities. They needed an opportunity to not just find a tech job, but to actually thrive. We talked about economic justice. We talk about Greenwood. When the average salary in Tulsa is $35,000 across the board, it's a lot less for a Black family. But when we talk about having a tech job, at that point we're talking about salaries that are in the 70s and 80s. In Tulsa, that makes a great deal of difference.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So in 5 years, where will Urban Coders Guild be? Do you ever anticipate maybe expanding the ages, like starting younger?
So that is a great question. Do we anticipate a day that we're starting younger? And I know that is essential to what we're doing. being able to start with the youngest young kids, cradle to career, like the actual youngest young kids, to make sure that they have the skills and ability. I know what it's like to be 22 and someone pins you a job description asking for 5 or 10 years of work experience, but when you're 22, mathematically you would have had to start when you're 12. And so I think about that for the future. I also think about, like right now, most of our students are middle school and high school, but I think about them, again, being older, having jobs, but I also think about them being in a position to mentor other students and bring them through the guild. And that's really why I called it a guild. It's that mentorship, that mentorship system that's built in.
That each one, like reach one and each one teach one type of situation.
Exactly.
I love that. I want to talk, Mrs. Vaughn, to you, because I want to talk to mothers who maybe see something in their child. What would you say to encourage them to help foster their creativity or help foster their curiosity?
I think mostly just to support them. Honestly, I think as a parent, you know your child. You know them. You know the child. You know your child at 2 or 3 or 4 years old exactly what they could be capable of. And that's what you do. You just try to instill in them the best that, all the positive images. I don't believe in negative. I believe that anything that's negative, you can turn it to a positive. And so, Mikeal was always special. It was always something about him. I can recall one really incident that always sticks out is when Mikeal had done something, and it was just superior, and all the school and all the teachers were praising him. And I took him to Toys R Us, and I said, you can get any toy in here. I mean, anything. He got a book that was 100, and it might have been 1,001. He picked 100. It was a book for children. It says 101 things that children should know. And he read that from cover to cover. So I knew, and he could tell you about how far the sun was from the moon, the stars. He knew every star. He knew all of that. And I'm at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. So I knew that he was always going to be, me and my husband would look at each other. Where did we get him from? But the bottom line is just always, just support him. Don't let any teacher tell you that they talk too much or they won't stay still or put them on medicine. Just always encourage them. Be the best advocate you can for your child, because you know as a parent what they're capable of. Now, sometimes the teacher will tell you your kid did this, and I'm not saying that what they won't do when they're not in your presence, but your child. So I just, just always nurture, love, encourage, support, and always speak what you want your child to be. Speak to that, because really you speak it into existence, and it has nothing to do with faith. That's just karma. So, just always do the best that you can for your child. And really, and I make it about money, but it's really never about money. It's just that I didn't have the vision. I had to catch up with Mikeal. So it's just always know your child and encourage them always. Never put limits on what your child can do.
How do you get that 30-year-old child to believe in themselves if they didn't have a mom like you?
You just keep encouraging. You still speak to them. You still speak, because everybody, you're going to fall and get up, fall and get up. Always have something for them to get up to. And I just know that 30, 40, 50, you're pushing it, but it's hope. As long as you have breath, it's hope.
That's so true. And that's my word, hope. I love that. I'm so glad that y'all are both able to join us, because this is so special to me. And I'm so glad that all of your sisters are here. All 3 of your sisters are here. Let's give them a hand. So I have a question for y'all. Did y'all see Mikeal doing or being in this field or doing something like this whenever you were kids? Could you tell, oh, he's going to do something? Yeah.
I wanted to add that we knew that he was special because he was born 1980, October 29th, and he was actually the baby Jesus and Kim was Mary.
And Holy Family.
So, I mean, that was basically the destiny for him. And I was an angel.
So you were baby Jesus.
And there was a real priest.
That's what I was thinking too. Mikeal and my husband share a birthday, so I always know his birthday because I'm like, oh yeah, y'all both celebrate a birthday. So I want to I'm gonna open it up for questions from anybody. But before I do that, I guess I'll get your final thoughts after we have questions. But we're gonna open it up for you all. Are y'all enjoying this conversation? We're gonna open it up, and if anybody has a question, let me know, and I'll bring a mic to you, or I'll have somebody. Do I have somebody that can take a mic to question people? People who have questions, not necessarily question people. Thank you, Liz. Let's clap it up for Liz. Liz! Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Vaughn or his mother? Okay, we've got a question right here.
Could you talk about some of your success stories that come out of your organization?
So the question was, can I talk about some of the success stories? Our kids skew a little bit younger. So right now it's mostly ninth graders, but I can think of a couple of our students who've already gone on. There is one young man who is actually studying computer science at the University of Missouri. And so that's just one of the ones that pop, like that is immediate in my mind. I know another young man is doing communications in the Army. He can't tell me exactly what that entails, but he definitely shared with me that his skills that he picked up, like critical thinking skills, logic-based skills, problem-solving skills, is something that he leans on in his career now. In terms of the projects that we worked on, I'm most proud of what we did last year to commemorate the Tulsa Race Massacre, the centennial. We had a group of students who created websites for the businesses that existed in historic Greenwood.
It's amazing. That's a great question. Anybody else have a question? Got a question over here.
Hi, Mikeal.
Hey, Kenties.
Hi, Tara.
Hi.
Hi, Mikeal's mom. My question is just to find out what is the avenue by which a child might get to you? Is there a referrals program source? Like, how does that work?
So that is a great question. It really is a matter of applying. I know that I worked through the school district. I worked through social media, word of mouth, but it really is a matter of just applying. There are no criteria-based questions on the application. There's no experience required on the application. It is a matter of signing up. It is a matter of knowing that we really are asking for 30 weeks of your time, over 100 hours of your time. But it really is just a matter of signing up. It's also a matter of knowing that we're trying to remove all of the barriers of access or barriers to access. And so that means that if transportation is a barrier, that we work to provide transportation support. 80% of our kids are free and reduced lunch, so that means that if they don't eat with us in the evening, that they might not eat again until breakfast at school the next day. So we also feed the students. What else do we do for the students? We give them a brand new MacBook at the end of their cohort year. What else do we do for the students? We invest in the kids in a real way that, we talk about investing in our kids, but we actually have purchased crypto wallets for them. we put $50 worth of Bitcoin in these crypto wallets when they complete the program. So we talk a lot, but it really is just giving all the kids. But in terms of attracting them, it is open to anyone.
And then my rebuttal question would be, is there a capacity that you have so you can handle 30 children, 1,000? I mean,
So we currently have four programs going. Starting in September, we'll have 6. It is right around 20, so we're talking at that point around 120 kids. We also have 6 summer programs that we're running, and each of those is about 15 to 20. So that's almost 200, 240, 250 kids that we can provide opportunities for.
thank you.
Great question. Can you wait for the mic for me? That way the people on the live stream can hear
What
you.
can the community do to support you in making sure that you not only just meet their enrollment, but you want to be able to meet their enrollment with the students that are actually interested in the program?
That is a great question. So in terms of support from the community, it really is helping to get the word out about what we do. It's also knowing that when we think about computer science, when we think about web development or app development, it isn't something that most of us know immediately what it is. So being able to help our young people understand that this is what we do, help them understand that this is a pathway. A lot of times we focus on sports as the primary pathway, or our students will see their most successful family member doing something and choose that. But it's helping them understand that this is something that may be brand new. It's an opportunity to explore something. Encouraging our kids to, like my mom said, encouraging our kids to explore something that's new, something that's different. Part of it is about making money, a lot of money possibly in the future. Part of it is just trying something new and learning a new skill.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
We got a question right there.
So you guys are doing a lot right now to, I guess, equip the next generation in Tulsa for kind of participating in, a tech industry, a tech economy, all of these things. But what do you think that, especially as it's kind of still at the start right now, a tech ecosystem needs to do on the company level to kind of foster cultures that actually support, employees who look like you?
So just so I can understand, Max, you're asking what can companies do to support students or support future employees that look like me?
Yeah, and not just that, but especially like Tulsa as a city that's kind of, at the start of like building out, a tech economy, a tech ecosystem. What has to happen at the ground level to make sure that, people continue to feel kind of welcome and that they have a space and that they have a voice in, how it's growing, how it's being shaped.
Absolutely. So one of the things that our companies could do immediately is to support Urban Coders Guild. But also, I mean, there are some other organizations that do great work, and then so being able to support the organizations that are most proximate to our children and to our communities. I also can think of something that is something that we could do that's a little bit more near term, and that is creating mentorship and apprenticeship opportunities. I don't say internship opportunities for sure, but also experience doesn't pay bills. You can't really eat experience. And so I think about apprenticeship opportunities where our young people are getting paid, where our young people are learning a skill, but learning it in such a way that in 2 years' time or whatever that apprenticeship is, that they will have the skills, the ability, the confidence, the comfort level, that sense of community where they would join a company, join an organization, and feel a part of the organization.
And be able to be self-sufficient, right?
Exactly.
That's good.
Do you currently have partnerships with any companies for kind of creating that pipeline or internship programs or anything like that?
So I do have a couple of partnerships. One that I will just call out immediately is Asimio, which is right around the corner. They're I could describe it a lot of different ways, but I really think about tech for good and being able to have a social impact, and that really is what they do in their lane. There are a couple other companies that actually hosted us last week, or I guess that was the week before last, the 28th, that hosted our students. And so Asimio was one. There were a couple of our startups here in Tulsa, FanSub being one of them, Influencer being one, Leon being a close friend. There's TMA Systems, Tulsa Public Schools. And so there are some organizations that support what we do. We need a lot more because, again, we're building a tech hub, and we are teaching kids about tech, but there's still a gap between what we're teaching and where the students could enter a tech company. But having those internship and apprenticeship opportunities is the gap.
Yeah, I think that's an area that can have a lot of potential. The current company that I work for, we've had 3 different interns that were like in high school, I think, and one has been full-time, gotten a full-time position as a software engineer. And so I think there's probably many companies who would consider, getting high school interns that, are skilled. So, yeah, thank you.
Sounds good.
So what can individuals who maybe are not affiliated with a certain company and maybe don't even have children but want to help, what can they do? Can they contribute? Can they donate towards Urban Coder Skill?
So in terms of donating, for sure, we have a website, urbancodersguild.org/donate. Beyond the financial donation, and of course those are always appreciated, but beyond the financial contribution, I think about mentors. I think about having beacons for our kids, like you said, and I know Officer Marvin Blades would say it a lot, and I actually think that he borrowed it from someone else. But if you can see it, you can be it. Having our students have those beacons, people that they can see doing tech, software development, but also, entrepreneurs of all stripes.
That's what I was going to ask. Do they have to be in tech? But you said entrepreneurs of all stripes. So just a person who is able to provide mentorship.
Being able to be mentors for our young people, knowing that each of us in this room, I'm looking around, each of us has a skill or ability, a sense of creativity that we need to be sharing with our young people, not just our biological children, but being that in our community.
That's good. So everybody in here, I'm commissioning you to be a mentor.
Find someone to mentor. Know that there are people who are looking at us to be mentors, even if you don't necessarily want to take it into like a formal mentorship. Just know that there are people looking at you. You might be somebody's role model from a distance, and so living life and stepping out, showing up in the world as your most authentic self, so that those kids can have those beacons, even again if you're not necessarily an actual like person-to-person mentor with them.
What does that look like in the way of time commitment? Is it the 120 hours that a person would be committing to, or is it like, what does it look like for time? Or can it be just crafted according to the situation?
So for us, in terms of mentorship, it doesn't necessarily have to be 120 hours. That would be great. If someone could make that time commitment, but it really is being able to come and speak to our kids. It's seeing someone who looks like them, preferably in tech, but not necessarily. It is knowing that our students also need professional services. So we think about resume development. We think about career choices. We think about how to write a check. all of those soft skills, those wraparound skills that our kids need. And I think you had a question way back in the back.
Hold on just a second, Naomi. Oh, I asked it? Okay. Any other questions? Got time for one more question.
Hi, Michael. So on the slide, I saw like, it's not on there, but like when the slides were going, I saw like mobile development and I think this slide. Like, is there like a plan to add like the emerging tech, like blockchain and machine learning and stuff like that?
So the question was, is there a plan to add more learning tracks? And that is something that we're actually actively working on right now. And so I'm thinking about what we're doing in the summer. One of the things that I love that we're going to do is digital animation. So we have a team of folks from Nickelodeon who will be doing digital animation with the kids, right? It's going to be a lot of fun. We're also doing cybersecurity. I know that's a big thing that we're doing in Tulsa. And then I know that we're also doing app development. So there's Android and there's iOS, mobile app development. But I want our students, especially in those two cohorts, to have something else to move on to. And so at that point, we're going to be doing cross-platform app development. So we doubled our capacity from the COVID year, and we're going to double our capacity again for this year coming up.
Okay, can we give Mikeal and Mrs. Vaughn a hand again, please? And thank you for all of those amazing questions. I want to ask you, do you have any closing thoughts or anything that you'd like for us to take away or anything that you want us to know from the conversation about Urban Coders Guild, about entrepreneurship, about your nonprofit, anything? Any closing thoughts?
So my big takeaway really is about Tulsa, the city that we're building as a tech hub, as an entrepreneur hub, wanting to make sure that we're all doing our part to make sure that city of the future is diverse, that really reflects our city. We do a great job of attracting people to live in Tulsa, but we don't necessarily do the best job in terms of getting our young people to see the opportunities here in Tulsa and to partake in those opportunities. So again, it is being a mentor, but it's also encouraging our young people to explore programs like Urban Coders Guild or other programs, but encouraging our young people to really step out and do something different, because Tulsa is a different city and will be a different city.
That's good. Can we give them one more hand? So it's a custom for Black Gold is I typically try to make sure that I'm mindful about everything about the whole speaker series. So I typically wear the T-shirt of a local Black entrepreneur. And today the T-shirt that I have on was made by Tanisha Scott of Testimonial Inc., another Booker T. Washington High School graduate. So I wanted to just shout Tanisha out. You can actually find her website at www.testinK.com, and she can customize. She customized this shirt for a women's retreat that she held a couple of weeks ago, actually the same day or the day after you had your event. So she's able to customize whatever you need, but Testimonial Inc. Also, we typically like to have something for our guests some parting gifts in the way of food. So today we actually have, Bourbon and Brown Butter Rice Krispie Treats by Sugar by Charlotte. And Charlotte is actually, she came to Tulsa via the Tulsa Remote Program. And she is she actually just earned Mrs. Oklahoma. So Mrs. Oklahoma America, I believe it is. I didn't have that picture, but her desserts are amazing. Once before we've had brownies and we've had cookies, and Eileen approves. So you liked it? Was it good? It was really good. So whenever this actually is gluten-free as well. So you can take that with you. I just want to say thank you so much for supporting this speaker series. Thank you again for being here, both of you. And the next Black Gold will actually be in 3 months. I'm not sure yet who the speaker will be, but I'm again so glad that we were able to have you tell your story. So if we could just give one more hand, I hope that everybody has a good night. Thank you so much to the 36 Degrees North team and to Greenwood Cultural Center. Have a good night.